I don't think it's a coincidence, and I don't think it's as innocent as it looks. That is actually a spell from an ancient civilization used on different media platforms.
There were covens in Europe. That's what they're called. The congregation. Covens in Europe, in America, and in Australia, and they have one right here.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. And today I got a new video for you guys. This week there's a few things I'm gonna be jumping up into this week, but I wanted to start off this video about a particular game that I'm excited about. But I want to touch on some things with that game, dealing with the superhero comic book. I used to read comic books growing up. I watched superhero movies. Big fan of Marvel. And DC, but I'm mostly a Marvel fan. So there's a lot of Spider-Man content coming out. You got the Spider-Man 3 movie that's coming out. They're working on it. You got Into the Spider-Verse 2 that's coming out, and you got a Miles Morales game that's coming out. But with that being said, I want to talk about some things with dealing with Spider-Man, not just the game, but the overall character, the design, and the illustration as well. And it mixes in what I talk about on this channel. I cover a lot of different stuff, from religion to spirituality, from politics, from the industry. So there's some things I want to bring to light that has to do with a character I grew up with, Spider-Man, and a lot of us grew up with. So before I jump into that, if you happen to enjoy this video, please hit the like button and show some support. And if you are new to the channel, do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. With that being said, let's jump off into the topic right quick. All right. Now with today's video, I want to talk about or bring awareness to a few things. I noticed with these comic book characters that the designs that they use in their suits, their armor, and their emblems has a lot to do with more than just what meets the eye. Let me explain. Let's break this down right quick. Growing up, one of my favorite characters was Spider-Man. That and Batman. One of my favorite comic book movies growing up was definitely Batman Returns, and it had the Catwoman, the Penguin, and all that. Danny DeVito. You had who else played in them? Michelle Pfeiffer. She was Catwoman. So that movie really impressed me a lot. One of the comic books that I would buy growing up was Spider-Man. So I was really into comics. I was kind of a nerd, but not really a nerd. Like, still like with the in crowd and rapped and danced and all that type of stuff. But at the same time, I read a lot and I was really into comics. So with that being said, big Marvel fan, watch a lot of Marvel movies. Not as much as I used to, but you know, from time to time I might catch a flick. You know what I'm saying? Keep up with the current news, seeing what's being made, what Kevin Feige is doing. Every now and then I might catch a DC flick. I'm not that big of a DC fan. So there's news of another Spider-Man game dropping. You have this biracial character that they've introduced a decade ago, but now with Into the Spider-Verse and other material, he's now getting some kind of light, some limelight. And a lot of people are embracing this character, Miles Morales. But this video isn't just really about Miles Morales. It has a little bit to do with it, but more to do with the emblems on a lot of these superheroes and their costumes. Now, back then I didn't notice this stuff, but now that I'm more spiritually heightened and more spiritually aware, and my mentality has changed, and I've grown as a person and as a soul and as a spirit, I've noticed some things. It's like I can't look at something and not notice it now. With the way that I've been guided and that the spirit guides me, it's like I can't turn on the television or read a book or have a conversation without noticing something. So I noticed something within the Spider-Man suit design. If you really look closely at the emblem, that I believe it was Steve Ditko and John Romita. They're two guys that worked on The Amazing Spider-Man. They were illustrators. They're comic book artists that worked on the first issue of The Amazing Spider-Man. So they're behind the design of Spider-Man. They work with Jack Kirby, and so if you look at the original emblem, or the emblems period, it hasn't really changed. If you look at it, and I started to really pay attention to the design, and it looks like a scarab, an ancient Egyptian scarab. We call that the Sacred Heart in Catholic Church, in the church. So the Sacred Heart is basically, it's another design that's based off the ancient Egyptian scarab beetle. That beetle is important in an ancient Egyptian ritual that is called the negative confessions. So when you go down there, your heart is weighed or your soul is weighed, you're judged. You have to have the scarab beetle because it protects your heart from confessing against you. So the design of that spider, it never really looked like a spider to me. Now that, I'm more versed and I'm more educated in a lot of ancient history. I read a lot, I study a lot. And when I looked at that, I'm like, yo, that looked like a scarab beetle. That don't look like no spider. And the image side by side, it clearly looks like it's a play on that image. So I don't know who was responsible for that, but I know it's there. Not only that, there's this thing of the number 42. We see it a lot in media, but we see it in Lovecraft Country. You have Jackie Robinson with the number 42, and you also have with Miles Morales, this new Spider-Man that's being introduced, cool character, but you have the number 42 as well. 42 was the lottery number that was given to him to go to the school that he went to. And 42 was also the number of the spider in the laboratory that bit him. So it's very important because when you look at the number 42, there's 42 negative confessions in the afterlife in ancient Egyptian mythology. So the 42 negative confessions are also called the Declaration of Innocence, where you stand before the Hall of Judgment and you declare your innocence that you did not commit 42 negative sins, right? When your soul is departed and you go into the afterlife in ancient Egyptian mythology, you have to confess. And with these confessions, it's 42 of these confessions are negative confessions that you didn't commit while you was alive. That's crazy, right? Because that number is associated with the spider of Miles Morales. And again, if you look closely at the emblem, it looks like a scarab, which protects you from the 42 negative confessions. Crazy, right? So it's little stuff like that. It's even little stuff like Iron Man's hand. If you look at it, it looks like a Hosma sign. You know what I'm saying? Something that's used in ancient Phoenician and North African culture. You have it's part of the Mediterranean culture. It's something that's used in ancient mythology as well. The evil eye. So if you look at the designs of a lot of these comic book heroes, they incorporate a lot of ancient ritualization, a lot of ancient imagery, and a lot of ancient beliefs. Part of the ancient belief systems that you find in ancient Egypt and even Phoenicia and even other civilizations and cultures, even Babylonia. So it catches my attention. It's something that catches my attention, but it's something that's, it has me thinking that how is this and why is this incorporated again in Western media, in Western society? So how does this get there? You know what I'm saying? What is the backstory to that? You can say that it's a coincidence and maybe that has something to do with the team that, created the character or it's a studio they worked at or whatever. I don't think it's a coincidence. And I don't think it's as innocent as it looks. That is actually a spell from an ancient civilization used on different media platforms. Again, it appears, in my opinion, to be a spell used on different media platforms. What was the people behind the creation of the costume, the illustration? What were they thinking, pulling from that civilization? Like what, anyway. So I'm not saying don't take your kids to go see the next Spider-Man movie or don't participate in buying the game. What I'm saying is pay attention because there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. We already knew that. That's common sense, but it's deeper than you people think. So my job is to bring that to the forefront and bring that to the light. So again, that's my take on that. And I'll be following up with some other videos on some other topics I want to cover, but I wanted to touch on that because the game was looking nice. A lot of Spider-Man content coming out, and I did grow up watching it or whatever, but I got to keep my spirit on guard with all of this stuff. And I want y'all to do the same thing. So with that being said, like, subscribe, hit the notification button. And until next time, I will see you guys with another video. Late.